Have you ever taken a small pebble and thrown it into a lake? And you see the ripples radiate out where the stone enters the water. Doesn't matter what size stone you use or how big the body of water, the smallest stone will have an impact upon the biggest ocean in the world. This is a story of a ripple effect. When I moved to Arizona 10 years ago, on September the 11th, 2000, I walked into my brand new job, brand new office in Tolleson, Arizona. Completely culture shocked at moving from Indianapolis, Indiana, very much in my comfort zone, and leaving everything behind and starting new in a part of the country that I never wanted to move to. But the job was too good to pass up. So on September 11th, I walked in, and on September the 13th, I started calling Toastmaster clubs. Because at that time, I was 3 speeches away from a distinguished Toastmaster. I had been super uber involved in Toastmasters in District 11 in Indiana. And September the 13th, I called 2 clubs. The next week, I hadn't heard anything, so I called 2 more clubs. Now, the week after that, I went back to Indiana to get my bride. We'd found a place to live, and I actually wanted her to move to Arizona with me at some point. And the conversation in the car on the long trip from Indiana to Arizona went something like this. Honey, I'd really like to finish my Distinguished Toastmasters. When we get to Arizona and we eventually find my manuals, I just have 3 speeches left to do. I promise I won't get involved like I did. We arrived the 1st of October. We got settled in, and a couple weeks after that, I started dialing those clubs again. And I dialed a couple more clubs, and I still had not heard back anything from anyone. So I picked up the phone one last time, and I responded to an ad I saw on the internet at the Find a Club part of our international website. And I dialed the number, and Dave Reichert answered the phone. And because Dave answered the phone, my life 10 years later is much better, and it's much different. It's a ripple effect because Dave went to that Toastmasters meeting, and Glenn brainwashed him that Toastmasters was a good thing. And Dave got involved, and Dave wound up being the person that answered that phone. Because I will tell you, if Dave hadn't have answered that phone, I was done with Toastmasters. I just figured it was a sign from God that I was supposed to focus on other things in my life. Thanks to Dave answering that phone, I have friends and relationships in my life that I never would have met. Nancy Starr-Cassidy has become one of my best friends ever. Such a dear friend that in August 2004, when she was elected to the board of directors, and I was a lieutenant governor nothing in District 3, she looked at me and said, Tim, I think you'd make a great international director someday. And I came up with at least 3 dozen reasons why that was a horrible idea. And she just looked at me, and she smiled, and she said, I promise you, when you're ready, I'll be there. 4 years later, in August 2008, there's a picture of me just elected to the board of directors. Ralph Wallace here, someone that I never would have met were it not for Dave answering that phone. Rose Beeson here, who's serving as our Lieutenant Governor Education and Training, someone who's become a protege and a dear friend of mine, and I'm so proud of her leadership journey. And Nancy Starr-Cassidy, who kept her promise. I have friends all over the world because of the many things that I've been able to experience in Toastmasters. There are relationships that have been built, and honestly, for my wife and I, that's our support system. And that's important because if you don't know, my wife is fighting ovarian cancer. It's Toastmasters that sit with my wife at chemotherapy when I can't be there. It's Toastmasters that accept her sitting in the TLI staging room with her fuzzy slippers on, doing everything for her because she physically cannot walk. When our family visits from back east, and they're a little concerned that we're so isolated here, they are in awe of the love and friendship and amazing support that our Toastmasters family provides us. In June 2008, 2 weeks after Lynn came out of remission, I got called into my boss's office. That engineering career that I was so good at and I loved was coming to an end. Little thing called the economy. And for some reason, in case you haven't noticed, they're not building buildings as much as they used to in Arizona. We went from boom to bust in no time flat. And my 14-year engineering career evaporated into thin air. 18 months later, I had another job. A job that I hated, but it put food on the table. I was answering the phones, doing technical support and selling electronics for a major electronics company for $10 an hour. And I was grateful for that job and grateful for the accompanying health insurance that came along with it. The next day, after I came back from our international convention in August of 2009, there was an email. My job, answering that phone, doing tech support, it was going to another country. A country where they didn't have to pay the workers health insurance benefits. And I was a little upset. I had signed up for all the internal job postings. The internal job posting came up and said, training specialist, bachelor of science degree, or bachelor's degree. Check, I got that. Civil engineering degree, I'm good. Experience with adult learning theory. Hey, I learned about that working with TLI. Check. Facilitative instruction. I have facilitated, thanks to Dave answering that phone, for groups from 2 to over 200. Check. Instructional design experience. What do you think we've been doing with TLI, folks? Check. And I turned in my application. In October 2009, I became a corporate trainer, completely reinventing myself because of what I've learned in Toastmasters. I had been involved in Indiana. I had been a district officer, area governor, division governor, public relations officer. Maybe I would have eventually been a district governor. I don't know. I really got involved after I moved to Arizona. And I got really involved because Dave answered that phone. Leadership is not a really big thing. Leadership is a bunch of really, really small actions that add up to the sum of a huge leader. And everything that I am today, as a professional, as a Toastmaster, and as a leader in this organization, all comes down to somebody answering the phone and saying one thing. This is Dave. Can I help you, please? The next time you're tasked with doing something in your club, it's not a small thing. It's a huge thing. And 10 years from now, when we gather for the 40th anniversary, I hope that someone else can stand up here and talk to you about the ripple effect and the difference that you've made in their lives by the very small act that you did. I will never be able to repay you, brother, for what you did for me. And I will never be able to repay what this club did for me at that time and that place. And if Chandler was any closer, I never would have left the club. I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to come here and speak with you and share with you the ripple effect in my life that has made such a huge difference, Mr. President.